everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker. With me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And in today's episode, we are previewing the round of 12, the first race of the round of 12, coming to you from Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series, a triple header weekend in store for all the race fans here this weekend. And really looking forward to that one. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do a Bristol preview last week, and scheduling stuff just came up. So apologies for that, but we are back this weekend for the Vegas race. Really looking forward to getting into this one. Of course, the Xfinity Series playoff opener as well, with them finishing off their dramatic regular season at Bristol. One of the craziest finishes you're ever going to see this season, maybe the finish of the season across all of motorsports. What a fantastic show Bristol put on the past weekend. Unbelievable racing, and that is proving why it is the best track in all of motorsports, specifically NASCAR. It is unbelievable with the show that they put on consistently, and Bristol's back. And then, of course, we're going to put dirt on it next spring. So, there's that. But we got a lot of stuff to get to in today's episode, looking at our playoff predictions for the Xfinity Series, our fantasy preview as well for Vegas. Not too many news and notes in today's episode, but we'll still touch on a couple of things. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing good. Excited for this one. Las Vegas has quickly become one of the biggest wildcards in the playoffs, kind of a low-key one. You wouldn't think that Vegas is the wildcard race when you look at Talladega and the Charlotte Roval following it. But last year, just as an example, we had a big upset victory with Kurt Busch winning at a home track that he's had a lot of struggles at. Yeah. But some strategy call from Matt McCall ended up working out very, very well. The restart prowess helped out huge at the end. He got the win and helped him propel himself to a round that he probably wouldn't have gotten to had he not got that win. So definitely a big race coming up this weekend, not only for the Cup Series, but as you mentioned, a big race coming up for the Truck Series and a big race to start off the playoffs for the Xfinity Series. So a lot to get to in this one, and really looking forward to what should be a pretty wild weekend here in Vegas.
For as much action that there was in that first round for the Cup Series, it was actually pretty predictable who went home. We got three out of the four correct from our pre-playoff predictions.
Well, so the four that you would think of as being the favorites to be eliminated were all the four that were actually eliminated. We kind of looked at it going in the past and like, okay, there's always somebody that gets eliminated that we don't expect. Yeah. And so you sprinkle in like one or maybe even two of those guys, depending on how conservative or how risky you go with your predictions. And for the first time in a while, at least as I can remember it, the four quote unquote favorites to be eliminated were the actual ones that got eliminated. So that what that makes for is an even more compact, tight round of 12 here for the Cup Series, where all of these guys could be round of 8 or even championship contenders in some instances. And some of these guys are already on the cut line. So definitely a big race coming up, and of the more predictable of the three, and yet also one of the more chaotic when you look at past results as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would really thought that those four would be eliminated going into Bristol, though. Like when you look at it, William Byron was at a pretty big deficit, and he was able to dig deep at Bristol and earn his best ever race and result at Bristol in his career so far. So that just proves that 24 team is going to be one to watch. Had a rough couple of races to start, but they're going to start to pick up their momentum, you feel like, as the tracks start to suit their driver and their car a little bit more. And that could maybe potentially start this weekend at Las Vegas. So Kurt Busch is not going to get the opportunity to repeat what he did last year in terms of going to that round of 8. Chip Ganassi Racing in their final season does not get a shot at the championship, unfortunately. And that's unfortunate for Kurt Busch, Michael McDowell, Eric Almirola, and Tyler Reddick, who all go out in the opening round.
I don't think Chip Ganassi is too worried about the whole championship thing based off of what's going on in the other series. But
I don't think so either. But it seems like a little bit of a sad ending to Chip Ganassi's career in the NASCAR side of things, with not getting a round of 12 appearance, at least from a guy that's so consistent, just didn't quite have the setup they needed for Kurt Busch last weekend at Bristol. But let's look at the news and notes. Only a couple things to get to today before we look at our Xfinity Series playoff predictions. It'll start off with the Xfinity Series, and it's a new logo for next season. They're going with a vibrant purple, replacing the very well-known red that has been accustomed to seeing since the Xfinity Series has been rebranded as that from the Nationwide Series. So there it is, the purple logo. It's basically the news in itself, but I think it looks pretty cool at least. But, I feel like we've had so many different looks of lower series and even the top series over the last like couple of years. I would love it if it could just like kind of stay compact for a couple of years so I can try and, understand everything that's happening. But we've had a lot of rebranding stuff. At least it's the same logo in terms of the same series sponsor, at least. So that's not changing or going anywhere anytime soon. Just a different look for the Xfinity Series next season.
Yeah, I don't got much to add on this. It's changing the red to purple. There's really nothing to add to it. I like purple as a color. I don't know how they're going to mix it into maybe broadcast graphics or any different things when it comes to the playoffs next year or whatnot, but I'm a fan.
Yeah, there it is. We just wanted to mention it, but then we'll look at the last bit of news really in today's episode. It's a new look for the Truck Series next season in terms of the actual vehicles that are going to be on the track. All three manufacturers, the Chevrolet, Toyota, and Ford, are getting a makeover for next season, a new front and a new rear of those cars, of those trucks, excuse me. And the Ford F150 was the first one to be released. The pictures came out prior to recording this episode today, and it looks really damn solid, I got to say. I think the Ford truck has been the least mean in terms of looks of the three for the past couple of seasons. Toyota definitely looks good. Chevrolet looks really, really good. But Ford's just been kind of meh. But now I think with this new kind of look that they got at the front, looks a lot meaner. It looks a lot more aggressive. And I really like the way that they're going with that. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Toyota and Chevrolet, because they both look still pretty solid in their own rights right now, but we'll see if they can make some sort of improvement for next season. But a little bit of a different look for the Truck Series next season, which is always good to have a little bit of a facelift here and there for the lower series.
Yeah, I think the Ford like generic paint scheme that they have also does wonders for how it looks.
I know, right? It just amplifies everything.
I know, it just looks really, really nice. It was the case with the next gen car when that was released for the Cup Series for 2022. It's the case again for the new F150 in the Truck Series. So maybe they should just use that as the generic paint scheme when they don't have a sponsor or something like that. I don't know, but it does look pretty good. But yeah, interested to see what the others look like as well. Of course, a new generation of NASCAR starting next season with the next gen car, and so looking like we're going to get some new bodies, of course, confirmed for Truck Series going into next season, waiting on what we're going to see in terms of the Chevy and Toyota body style, and then also probably Xfinity getting some different looks coming in the near future as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much evolution there is specifically with the Xfinity Series. How much do they want to make it look towards the next gen car when, we have a great car down there right now. It provides some great racing. I don't think anybody's complaining. The composite bodies are absolutely to die for when they can rub and bump and do everything that they did at Bristol last weekend, and they don't have to worry about a cut tire really late in that final stage to take them out of the contention for victory. That was impressive. And when you look at what the Cup Series put on with the Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick contact, cutting down Elliott's tire. You're like,
the fun part about that is next year is just going to be the cars aren't sturdy enough to maintain that contact. So the tires won't go down. It's just the bodies are going to crumble underneath it.
Yeah. I don't know what to expect for next year for the Cup Series, but I cannot get over how crazy that finish was at the Xfinity Series race on the Friday night. That was to die for if you missed it. So really, really quick news and notes section really today. The IndyCar schedule was released. Not too many changes there. Looking forward to seeing Toronto back on the schedule for next season. Of course, both of us being Canadians, we're looking forward to having them back in our home and native land.
I'm just hoping that I can get to my first actual race next year.
That would be awesome.
I'm hoping I can do the IndyCar thing next year. We'll see. Well, for starters, we'll see if it even happens. I feel pretty confident about it, but it's just been so long, man. I just want to see IndyCars back in Toronto.
I want to see. I think there's two bucket lists for me next season. It's the Montreal, the Canadian Grand Prix for F1.
We're getting bold with it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and then this one for IndyCar.
I wish you luck for Montreal though, because that's going to be bonkers.
Yeah, I know. I really hope I can get something with that, whether that's through work or through my own kind of thing. Like I will gladly go to the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve to try and watch that. But really quick news and notes to get to in today's episode. Let's get into our predictions for the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs. Kyle, when we did our preseason stuff, we were, it seemed pretty cut and dry who was going to make the playoffs based off of the names, based off of the equipment. At least for myself, I got 11 out of the 12 right. The one incorrect one was Ryan Sieg, and then Jeremy Clements actually made that as kind of that smaller team that outperformed their equipment in terms of making that top 12 this season. Michael Annett did not make the playoffs, of course, because of his injuries. He probably would have made it, very likely would have made it if he was healthy for the remainder of the season. But with him missing races and having to sit out due to his recovering from his injury, he's unfortunately not in contention for the Xfinity Series Championship this season. And then as well as Josh Berry will continue to replace him this upcoming weekend at Las Vegas.
Still in the Owners' Championship, though. So still stuff to race for the one car.
Definitely. So we'll see if Michael Annett will return this season. He may return later on in the year, but for right now, that's Josh Berry's ride for at least the foreseeable future until Annett is cleared to come back and race for the rest of this season. So we don't have to do round by round. We'll just look at our championship four here, Kyle, in terms of who's gonna make it and who's gonna have a shot of the championship at Phoenix in a couple of weeks' time. Really looking forward to the Xfinity Series because we have an impressive battle between AJ Allmendinger and Austin Cindric. We saw that for the regular season title. It seemed like that was almost Cindric's to lose in the last 25 laps before the late caution with Justin Allgaier and Sam Mayer getting together. And then, of course, Allmendinger steals it at the end to get the victory and the regular season championship, which was huge for him because he was at a little bit of a deficit to Cindric in terms of those bonus points due to the lack of race victories compared to the 22 car. But right now, they are very much on level playing field going into the
44
playoffs.
and 44.
Yeah, they have quite the advantage over the rest of the competition, and it's really close at that cutoff line. But let's get into the championship four predictions here, Kyle. Who is one guy that you're going to have finishing around that fourth area there in your championship for Phoenix?
Well, no. We're not going the fringe one first. We're getting the two obvious ones out of the way, and that's Cindric and Allmendinger.
Okay.
They've just got too much of a gap. You look at the races coming up; they're obviously going to make it through this first round, and then in that round following, you look at Colleague Racing, and they've really stepped up their mile-and-a-half program. So you feel good about those first two races, especially for Colleague and specifically Allmendinger. And then Martinsville is one of his best tracks, and you look at Cindric, and those shape up well for him as well. So given the 24-point gap to third place that they have currently, given how the tracks shape up as well, I feel like those two are definitely going to be in the championship four unless they have a catastrophic three races.
I agree. Yeah, they've been the leading of the pack the entire season. When there's somebody not competing in the 54 car, those guys are the top two dogs to go for it week in and week out. And they both have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses. It just seems like AJ Allmendinger's got a bit of a bite to him this season. He's really going after the championship. I had him in the preseason. I was close to not putting him in there, but I decided to go for it. I'm going to obviously stick with that given the season that he's had. And then Austin Cindric, the defending series champion, you feel really good about his chances down the stretch, especially when it comes to Phoenix being the winner there in the spring race. But we'll get on to our championship prediction in just a second. We have two more spots to fill out for this championship four. And there's a lot of different people you can look at for these two spots because there's no clear cut favorite in terms of who could make these last two spots. Anything can happen in those last couple of races. We saw last season, you thought Noah Gregson was going to punch his ticket to the championship four. Boom, loses it in the last corner to Harrison Burton at Texas. Martinsville, chaotic race. If Josh Berry's in that field, he could upset them all and win that race and deny somebody a chance at the championship four spot. Of course, he won there in the spring as well. But it's a really, really compact cut line. Only plus 15 to only third overall in the standings being Justin Allgaier, and then only -8 to Jeremy Clements. That's a really, really tight bubble battle that we're going to look at through these first three races of this round. But what's the third guy you have in your championship for here, Kyle, to join Allmendinger and Cindric?
Yep, I had him in the preseason, and I've seen nothing this season that makes me want to go away from it. It's Justin Allgaier. He made it last year when they had more inconsistent results. This year, they're kind of similar in terms of where they've been running a lot of the time, but they've been getting the finishes a lot more consistently. Last year, an average finish in the 13th range, this year all the way up to the 10th range. So that's a pretty big jump in terms of the consistency. And I just look at the rest of the playoff guys and I see a little bit too much inconsistency or inexperience in some of those higher pressure situations. Justin Allgaier's been there, done that. And so I feel pretty strongly that he also makes it to the championship four with Allmendinger and Cindric.
I've been kind of on this wagon the whole season. I had him not making it in the preseason, and I don't have him making it here once again. I have Justin Allgaier missing out on a shot at a championship at Phoenix in November. I do have his junior motorsports teammate, though, Noah Gregson.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. The late season surge here, I think, will prove dividends for him. Looking at this weekend at Vegas, I feel pretty comfortable with him going into that. He looked good at the Roval at times last season, but then again, that was in the most torrential downpour you could really imagine for a race in NASCAR, at least on wet weather tires. So it's really hard to kind of look at those results at all last season with how chaotic it was. But I think that last round really lines up well for Noah Gregson. I look at Martinsville, a track he's been very, very good at. Texas was almost a winner there last season, looked good there in the spring as well. I just think that the 9 car has got a little bit of mojo going for him here right now. They're clicking at the right time, which is very key for the playoffs. It doesn't really matter about that early season success, which is obviously something we've talked about on this show with this playoff format. But Noah Gregson, I just think that the momentum they've been on, he's had 6 DNFs, but then again, he's had 16 top 10s when he has actually finished the race, only 1 behind his teammate Justin Allgaier, who has 17, and he only has 2 DNFs. So that means that when Gregson's good, he's pretty damn solid. And then when he's off, he's most likely in the garage area wreck. So it's been a up and down season for Gregson, but those 2 victories here as of late have really kind of spurred me to this decision. I had him in the preseason. I thought he was going to have a big step forward here for this year with more victories, but they come a little bit later in the going. Maybe that's a sign that the 9 car is going to go for his first championship 4 appearance here in the Xfinity Series.
The problem that I have with Gregson is just, it's so close in Xfinity. It only takes 1 DNF or 1 poor result to really kind of ruin your playoff chances unless you get a win. And the way that this season's gone with the kind of enemies that he has on the track, just given his history in the series as well, I just don't really see a scenario where he either has 3 consistent good finishes to make it to that championship race, or he has a bad race and then goes out and wins or something along those lines. So he could absolutely go out and do it. Those 2 back-to-back wins at Darlington and Richmond really helps his case going forwards into the playoffs, kind of from almost being a guy at the back of the pack, needing to work his way up from the bonus point situation to being 4th in the standings now with that. But I got to see it before I believe it with Noah Gregson. He could absolutely go and do it. I'm just a little bit tentative on him.
If he makes it through this first round here in this round of 12, I feel pretty solid about his chances in that round of 8, the 1.5 miles being up against the wall at Kansas. Kansas has been more of a wild card in that round of 8, more so than Martinsville for the Xfinity Series. I know the Martinsville race was just kind of a later addition for that series, but for Kansas, it's always been kind of a wreck fest early on in restarts, and a lot of the playoff guys getting taken out, and you have some surprise winners in that race. So maybe we'll see that again, but I just think Gregson's got the tools this season. Later on here, I didn't believe it much early on. I think we talked about it on this show with how disappointing he was for a lot of the season, where he just wasn't consistent enough. He wasn't getting the results, and he probably missed out on an opportunity maybe for a Cup Series ride next season, given his poor results. So he has to come back to the Xfinity Series next year. But if he goes on a little bit of a run here for a championship bid, then maybe that'll do him well for 2023. But I don't know. I just wanted to spice things up and go with Noah Gregson as the 3rd pick.
No, I like the pick. I like the swing. I was just kind of laying out why I personally didn't go with it.
Yeah, so. No, fair enough. Since you went first for your last one, I'll go first for this one here.
Okay.
You're going to like this one. I do have Daniel Hamrick making the championship 4. Mr. Consistent. I've been hard on him on this show countless times, and he has not still won a race this season, despite him being in Joe Gibbs Racing equipment. But I will say his teammates have done the exact same thing he's done, and that is not go to victory lane this year. Brandon Jones, Harrison Burton, and Daniel Hamrick. It's just been an off year for the 3 mainstays for the championship in the Xfinity Series for those teams, compared to the 54 car, which has been the most dominant car out of all the cars in the Xfinity Series this season, no matter who's really driving it week in and week out. So it's just been kind of a topsy-turvy season for JGR, but I think consistency will pay off here for Daniel Hamrick. He's run well at basically all of these tracks over his career. Ran well at the Roval last year. Talladega, I'm not very comfortable with his super speedway abilities, but then again, he did finish really well at the Daytona regular season finale there, recovering from early damage. And then you look at that round of 8, just consistent tracks for Daniel Hamrick. He's a stage point machine, and it's just a matter of him getting that final stage put together in the top 10, and he'll be fine. If he continues to execute and get stage wins like he did the entire season, Daniel Hamrick will make the championship 4, given the competition he's around. He's not prone to as many mistakes as those guys. It's just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, whether that's strategy or just not quite executing. It's just been kind of one of those Daniel Hamrick seasons where he can't quite put a full race together when it matters most. He's had race winning cars this year, hasn't quite got to victory lane. Will he get there at the end of the season? I don't know, but we'll see what happens. It's been a kind of a little side bet, I guess, from the preseason where I said I feel more confident in Riley Herbst winning an Xfinity race this season.
Which was a psycho comment.
But I've been proven wrong on that this season, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'll admit it. But for Daniel Hamrick, he's still not gone to victory lane, so I'll see what he can do. But I do have him making the championship 4 based off of his consistency this season. And he's out there to prove something at the end of the day. He's trying to find something for next season, whether that's at JGR or someplace else. If he's trying to move back up to the Cup Series in some sort of midfield ride, we'll see what happens for his future. But for right now, I think Daniel Hamrick is a guy that's going to secure that 4th spot in the championship 4.
Yep, I've got Hamrick too. For all of his faults, the one thing he's very good at is being consistent and getting those finishes, and especially that round of 8 to make the championship 4. He did it twice with RCR back in the day. And I feel pretty good about his chances. If he can get through this first round, which is a pretty difficult round for him when you look at a super speedway and kind of the chaos that can happen there, and then the Roval following it and the chaos that we know happens there as well.
Yeah.
If he can get through that first round, which some of the other people that are going to be on that cut line, I feel like he'll be able to. I really like the way that round of 8 shapes up for him. Texas, a top 5 finish there earlier this season. Martinsville, a top 5 finish earlier there this season. And then at Kansas, his last 2 races in the Xfinity Series there, he's finished 2nd. Yeah. So a very, very strong 3 tracks for him come to the end of the playoffs here before Phoenix. I feel the Joe Gibbs factor in him being one of the better title contenders for them this season is going to play a factor there as well. The consistency and having been there and done that as well in those final 3 races twice before. I like the way that it shapes up for Hamrick here. So I've got him in my championship 4 as well.
3 of the 4 is the same between myself and Mr. Cushman.
It's the same as what it was in the preseason, except we switched somebody up.
Yep, exactly. The only difference for myself is
Harrison Burton, both of us.
Yeah, Harrison Burton. We both had him in there, and I have his Joe.
We both swapped him out for the other Joe Gibbs guy.
Yeah, so it's just been one of those years for Harrison Burton where you thought he was going to have a really good season after his rookie year in the Xfinity Series. Hasn't gone to victory lane, and he's earned himself a Cup Series ride apparently for Wood Brothers next year. So. Money talks, man. Money talks.
Not apparently, it's been announced.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to the champion. Who's going to take this thing home at Phoenix? Can Austin Cindric go back to back, or will somebody new win the Xfinity Series Championship? You go first for this one, Kyle. Who you got as the 2021 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion?
I've got Austin Cindric. Phoenix is just shown to be a very good track for him, even though it's going to be some very stiff competition with Almendinger and especially Allgaier at that final track there. You got Penske power. You've got a title on the line. He's heading to the Cup Series next year. He wants to be that 2-time champion here, and I feel like he's going to go and get it done. I've got Cindric going back to back here.
I do too. It's just, you really have a hard time betting against the 22 car right now. They're just so consistent. And if it wasn't for his result in winning the spring race as well, maybe you look somewhere else, but he's won the last 2 times we've been at this track in the Xfinity Series. It's hard to think that he won't do it a 3rd time. You can't think that Penske's going to miss the setup going to a track they've won at consecutively here. This is their only entry in the Xfinity Series. They don't have to worry about any of the Cup guys coming down anymore or anything like that. This is Cindric's ride. They're going to give him all the tools necessary to go out there and win the championship. I really want to see it between the two-headed horse of Almendinger and Cindric battle for this thing. I hope the 16 car does nail the setup when they get there too. So it's a race-long battle. But in terms of the attrition, I will give the edge to Cindric. I think he's out there for a little bit more to prove, because he wasn't really the favorite last year, and he kind of won it from Chase Briscoe's hands, it felt like. And this year he's been the favorite for a large majority of the season. You can make the debate whether you think it was Almendinger or Cindric, but I would personally lean towards Cindric. It's just a bad stretch there, finishes that derailed him from winning the regular season championship. So it's going to be really close. And I don't know if anybody really saw AJ Allmendinger putting up this massive of a fight this year in the Xfinity Series, but he's one heck of a race car driver. Let's not forget, he's a Cup Series winner. So this guy knows how to wheel a race car and has done it across all forms of motorsports. So I hope it comes down to Cindric and Allmendinger, but I'm going to give the edge to the 22 car and going back to back. It's been something we've seen very much in the past. We saw it with Tyler Reddick going back to back. I think we see the same thing with Austin Cindric.
Yep. It's just too dominant of a program, too dominant of a driver. Phoenix isn't a great track for Almendinger either. If it was maybe a different track, maybe I'd lean somewhere else, but just too many factors playing into the hands of Penske and Cindric there for me to bet against.
Definitely. So there you have it. Those are our predictions for the Xfinity Series playoffs. Let's hope it's not the same as my truck series, because the two guys I have in my championship for are already out after the first round with Austin Hill and Todd Gilliland after the crazy race that was Bristol with the Chandler Smith victory and the teammate kind of, back and forth that was there at the end with KBM that has obviously stirred quite a bit of intrigue across the social media, I will say, but we're happy that the playoffs are going to continue here as the season rolls along. We've got lots of Xfinity Series stuff coming your way as they go straight on out from here to the end of the season with the Cup Series week in and week out. So that'll be really, really nice that they're going to Talladega and everything like that. That was a long period of time where they didn't go to Talladega for the Xfinity Series in the playoffs, but now, of course, they do. Martinsville as well. Going to be an exciting finish to round out a really entertaining Xfinity Series season when you look at the regular season battle.
Good, man. It's been so good.
Would you say that the Xfinity Series Championship battle between Almendinger and Cindric has been a little bit more intriguing to yourself than like a Hamlin and Larson, because that was this similarity with a lot of people made over the past weekend with Hamlin and Larson racing a lot at Bristol before Hamlin had the cut tire, obviously. But what are your thoughts on that kind of little thing?
To a certain extent, but like the fact that, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but the fact that it isn't a season-long championship, I don't particularly care all that much because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If it was season long, I'd be very invested in the Almendinger versus Cindric stuff because we've seen them battle on track more often. The Hamlin Larson battles on track have been more recent since the playoffs have started. But that's probably where I'd say I'm at on that.
Yep. Obviously, as just a fan in general of the sport, it's been incredible to watch, and
it's been really fun to watch. Yeah,
it's been it's made me at least interested in the Xfinity Series because my big thing is having Cup guys go down there to prove how much these Xfinity guys can stack up to it. But, they've done a masterful job in terms of keeping the entertainment level high pretty much week in and week out, no matter who's in the field. So I'll give them a lot of credit on that front, but looking forward to seeing how the entire Xfinity Series Championship battle shapes up as the season concludes. But that'll do it for our predictions there. It is fantasy time once again. And it's basically over. Well, it is over. Okay. Overall,
depends
it's not
which
over.
format you want to look at.
Head to head, it is officially over. Of course, we didn't get to do a fantasy preview for Bristol, but we did our picks via phone call.
It's probably a good thing we didn't because it ended up being a tire fire.
Yeah.
We made a lot of mistakes in setting our lineups.
Definitely. And whether that was what we initially picked over the phone with each other and then what we actually had in our lineups, there's a lot of confusion going both ways here. And
basically, we had a phone call. We set our lineups, and then we forgot to actually change what we initially put in the app. It was basically what it came down to.
Exactly. So we have a topsy-turvy looking to our lineups, but we'll update the usage situation when we make our picks here in terms of what we had. If you missed out what we had in our fantasy lineups, don't check Instagram because that is also wrong compared to what we had. It's all good at the end of the day. Kyle has secured the head-to-head championship as he beat me at Bristol last weekend very handedly after a lot of the late race issues for Chase Elliott. Kyle Busch, and then namely Christopher Bell, which was one of the differences, the only difference really in our lineup last weekend, where he had, Kevin Harvick compared to Christopher Bell. That's how it came down to.
I was trying to remember what our lineups actually were. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pretty costly flat tire there for Bell at the end that I wasn't in a position to win it anyways at the end because he had Larson as the race victor. Mm-hmm. I had Kyle Busch, and then it was all kind of downhill for those last 50 laps. I was just more focused on if Kyle Busch would make it to the round of 12 rather than what the fantasy battle looked like in those closing laps. But congratulations to Kyle. He's well deserving of the head-to-head championship this season. It's just been one of those years for myself where you just have some bad luck, and he's just been way more consistent. So that's credit to you. You get the trophy for head-to-head. You'll get overall, most likely. It's a pretty handy gap there after the commanding victory that you had at Bristol as well. What were the exact numbers on that, if you have them? Or
let me just pull it up real quick. Final total was 228 to 178 for myself at Bristol.
Yeah.
Overall, 54-23 for myself, 53-06 for yourself. So 117 point lead on the overall, and then 19-10 in terms of the head-to-head. And with 7 races remaining, of course, you cannot make up that gap.
Nope, I cannot. So 1-1, really, I guess, in terms of the overall kind of head-to-head look from last season this year. So we're evened up. Maybe next year is going to be the rubber match between the two of us, but that is all to be decided. Let's look at our Vegas picks, though, for this upcoming weekend. Claimed to be the most surefire race in this round, but it's anything but that when you look at the average finishes for a lot of these guys in recent history, whether that's including the spring race or honestly just this fall race. It has been kind of an all over the place kind of race for the playoffs, where it's kind of hard to get a good idea of who's going to be strong this weekend. You really have to look at the 550 results. And this is one where teams are going to put extra emphasis on due to the uncertainty of, because you know who's going to probably win the Roval. It's going to be Chase Elliott, or at least maybe Kyle Larson, if you want to look at those two. If anything goes wrong, then maybe you look at somebody else, but it's very, very likely one of those two wins it at the Roval. So it really leaves 2 races up for grabs, and you can't put your eggs all in one basket for Talladega, because that's just a crapshoot. So you look at Vegas and you're like, okay, that should look easy enough. It's 1.5 miles, but when you look at the race last year, it was not. Kurt Busch winning is
one
clear
caution
emphasis.
Screwed it all up. Yep.
Exactly. So a lot of things can go wrong. Kyle Larson, of course, won the race here in the spring, so he has that advantage going for him, trying to go back to back in terms of race victories this season, with the crazy victory at Bristol, beating out Kevin Harvick there in those final 5 laps, thanks to his teammate Chase Elliott. But yeah, let's get into the fantasy picks here, Kyle. You lead us off for this week because we have all 3 series in action. So who are you going with for your first pick? I can imagine who it is, but what are you going with?
Yeah, the first round, all 750 package races. So we have our first 550 package race of this playoffs, which means a different group of drivers that we're kind of looking at in some respects. That being said, I am going back to the well with my first pick with Kyle Larson. Simply put, they've just been the team to beat, the driver to beat with this 550 package, which is saying something because they've essentially been that on the 750 package at times as well this season. But they've got the most points accrued this season with the 550 package. Only 2 races they haven't finished inside the top 10, and those were Atlanta and Kansas when they had issues later on in the race and still got stage points earlier on. So when I look at all the factors, just way too much value on the board to leave Kyle Larson available. When I look at the remaining races here in the playoffs as well, you've only got 1 more 750 track until Phoenix. And of course, at Phoenix, you don't get necessarily the maximum value out of the championship contenders because they don't get any stage points. Yeah. So you've got only Martinsville left, and Martinsville isn't necessarily the best track either.
You got better options there.
Exactly. And then you look and you've got Vegas, Kansas, and Texas, 3 more 550 tracks. The Roval could be definitely a play for Larson if you want to mix things up as well. But 3 more 550 races to go this season. Kyle Larson's been the dominant car. I've got 3 usages left. You can kind of see where things are going there. Larson is going to be my leadoff guy this time.
Yeah, same here for myself. Kyle Larson, have 3 usages left on the 5 car. So going to be looking at, trying to balance those usages as the playoffs go along. You look at those 550 tracks that Kyle mentioned there. or if you feel really confident in him going for that full 40 points in terms of winning the race at Phoenix and the championship when he eventually does get there, because you imagine Larson will either win his way there or point his way there at the end of the day. Saying that, though, we thought Kevin Harvick would do the same thing last year, and that didn't happen. But for Kyle Larson, it seems like he's a surefire bet to make it to the championship for the past 6 races here at Vegas as well. He's got an average finish of 5.83.
Come on.
1 victory,
come on.
3
It's
top
stupid.
5s, 129 laps led. He does start on pole. Okay.
Okay.
I'm saying if there's something happens and the pole sitter has a little bit of a poor race here this time, my kind of underlying suspicion of the pole sitter being cursed does come to fruition once again. But in all likelihood, Kyle Larson will convert pole to victory. But if he doesn't, it's going to be a really strong day at the end of the day for that number 5 team that's just been the fastest car, no doubt, on the 550 tracks this season. Second in my lineup, though, Ryan Blainey. I've been kind of waiting for a couple of races here. The first round didn't quite line up where you'd necessarily want to in a lot of respects. Showed really good signs at Bristol, and he's got through his biggest hurdle so far. He's got through the first round. This is where the 12 car is going to start to come alive this round, and that next round especially. You can see Ryan Blainey going on a championship kind of run here, and we have them both in our championship 4 and our pre-playoff predictions. So let's see if he can do it. But I think that kind of march towards the championship starts this weekend at Vegas. He's got an average finish over the last 7 races here of 8.57, 4 top 5s, only 23 laps led, but he's always a contender here, always seems to be in that top 5 mix. He starts second, going to be in a good position to try and get those early stage points if they bring a good piece. This is the track that Penske excels at the most, it seems, when it comes to 550 tracks, especially. I don't know why that is, but they seem to always bring a pretty decent setup. And Ryan Blainey, I think, is going to be up there leading the pack for that Penske stable. There's a couple of guys there that you could look at if you also want to at the Penske stable to try and lead that charge. There's a lot of formidable forces over there this weekend in the Ford camp. So I think Ryan Blainey is definitely one to watch this weekend in terms of going for the victory.
Definitely. I've got him here as well. Just looking at the past results here, Las Vegas has been a sneakily very strong track for him. Top 5 in terms of 550 speed this season, and very consistent results recently on the 550 package as well, with 4 straight top 10s, all of which with 35 plus points. So looking at the recent results, looking at the 550 speed over the season, looking at the Vegas results, really like Ryan Blainey this weekend. So I've got him in my lineup here as well, using my first Ryan Blainey usage as well. Got that 5 fresh usages for him. Third for myself, could have used him a little bit more in the first round, even though I did end up using him twice. But Kyle Busch is going to be my third entry here. They've been very, very strong with the 550 package this season. In fact, running second in terms of points accrued this season on the 550 package to only Kyle Larson, and with a 4+ point gap in terms of average point haul at each race to third place in terms of 550 results this season. A very consistent all season long, to the point where, if I'm not mistaken, the number 18 has been in the top 10 at every single 550 race this season. So a very, very strong season for Kyle Busch on the 550 package races. I've got him in my lineup here at his home track of Vegas.
I love the way you're thinking, Kyle, because I as well have Kyle Busch in my lineup this weekend. I have him as my champion, and I'm feeling less confident by the day when it comes to that prediction. So when I look at my usages, I've got
that's tough.
Yeah, no, I know. It was just not quite the first round when you expected that 18 car to perform well. In fact, he had the 15th out of 16 amount of, he had the total number of points, 15th ranked out of 16 playoff guys in that first round. It was an abysmal first round for Kyle Busch, with the wreck at Darlington to start it all off. Didn't have a good car there. Didn't get any stage points, finishing well back in the 30s. Richmond could have won if he didn't have the speeding penalty there late. Doesn't get the result that he ultimately deserved. And Bristol, they just didn't show up. I was very shocked by the speed that they brought to Bristol, his best track. And they just didn't quite have it compared to even Denny Hamlin. So disappointing there, but 550 tracks have been where they are strongest. So I'm looking for a bounce back weekend here for Kyle Busch. And if he hopes to advance to the round of 8, he's going to need a very, very good Vegas here. And we've seen at times at Vegas where they've just kind of been all over the place. You think back to that 2019 one where he crashed into the lap car and then he ended up falling back. Like, he cannot have an issue like that again. But over the past 7 races here for Kyle Busch, he's got an average finish of 7.86, 3 top fives, 30 laps led, was third here in the spring. He starts 10th, so he's going to be behind some of these guys. He needs some stage points over. Hopefully that they can start on and unload well. No sim session for Kyle Busch this weekend. He's made that painfully clear via his media availability. They had one scheduled, but after the Darlington wreck, he canceled it. So maybe the no sim strategy will pay off for him this weekend. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the 18. But if he doesn't have a good run, I may consider saving him for another race. But the championship bid for Kyle Busch is looking unlikely right now. We'll see if they can try to get a little bit more momentum here this upcoming weekend at Las Vegas. For my 4th selection, I'm going to a guy I have not used yet in the playoffs in the opening round. William Byron is in my lineup this weekend. I think that Bristol race proves that he has the heart of a championship contender. That was really, really impressive for me. When you look at what happened last year, of course, the wreck we didn't see at Bristol, but he was still in a position going into that race where he could have advanced to that next round if he got a solid result, and he didn't. So putting that all together there at a track he's not favored at Bristol compared to some of the guys that he was trying to beat, it was pretty impressive to me. And I really liked the way that the 24 car lined up that race. They took it very serious. And I didn't think that they were going to come out of there on the positive side of the cut line, but they did. So the thing about William Byron, though, at this track is that it's not been his greatest. I'm going to go based off of momentum here and looking at some other options here based off of what I look for in terms of 5 usages. I have all 5 left on the 24 car. I don't know how much I'll use him for the remainder of the playoffs. So I think if I'm going to burn one, I think Vegas is a decent place to do it, given the results in the spring. He's got an average finish over the last 7 races of 20.29. So not fantastic at all, but 2 top 10s, 64 laps led, was very, very good in the early part of the spring. Started to teeter off a little bit as the race went on, but still managed to get a top 10 finish. He starts third, in a position to try and earn a couple of stage points there early on, as long as they pass pre-race inspection. That's always a caveat with these things. But William Byron, I think if I'm going to use a 24 usage right now, I feel like this is a pretty good place to use it when this is such an up and down race in terms of who you want to look at. I think the 24 car could be a surprise top 7 candidate maybe this weekend. So I'm going to go with the Hendrick Motorsports 24 car.
See, I'm looking higher. I'm looking for a top 5 for William Byron this weekend. Okay. I've got him in my lineup here as well. Second this season in 550 speed. It's been a little bit more inconsistent recently. Had an insanely good start to the season where they were picking off top 10s very consistently. Since then, a little blip on the radar with Pocono, the second race, having to pit there, which probably would have been a win for them there.
Would have been a win for me in fantasy too. The son of a gun.
That's true. But William Byron this season is 3rd in terms of points accrued with the 550 package, 2nd in terms of speed this season by median lap time. And although the past results haven't been there for William Byron to the same extent as some of the other guys around him, good there earlier this season, and they need to start off this round very well. And so I actually like this round quite a bit for William Byron and how it can potentially break out. They had a tough start to the round of 16, fought their way at Bristol to make it through. I think they'll carry that momentum into Vegas this weekend and have a good run. I've got Willie B here as well.
One quick thing. I did have him in our pre-playoff thing as the big guy that could go out in that first round. Was very close.
Fair play.
Was very close. I'm glad I didn't actually predict it because I would have been like an idiot. But he was close.
No, you would have looked good because it would have been close.
That was the perfect scenario for me. I'm happy to get 3 out of 4. That's better than what we usually do. It's usually a 50%. I'll take 75 at the end of the day. But carry on with your 5th pick.
Yes. So if I'm not mistaken, that means we're 4 for 4.
Yeah.
And I feel like these last 2 picks could differ a little bit. And so I think for the first time in these playoffs, I'm taking a non-playoff driver here in my lineup. And I am taking the swing on Kurt Busch here this weekend. The results haven't been there in his career, but had some strategy work out for him last season. But that's not the reason why I'm betting on him here, because that to me was more of a fluke than an actual result based off of the speed that they have. I'm looking at Kurt Busch because they have nothing to lose the rest of the season. They're literally just going for wins for Chip Ganassi. Yeah. And the 550 package has been low key really, really good for Chip Ganassi and specifically Kurt Busch this season. They rank 6th in 550 median lap time this season. And although the results haven't been there at Vegas, the chaos that is kind of this race and with this package, especially, you can kind of push some of the past results to the side and look more specifically at speed. And Kurt Busch is there for me. Again, they've had a very up and down season. Some of the earlier season results really bring down the averages. So only ranked 12th in terms of points accrued with the 550 package. But of course, a really strong race in the first Pocono race. Won the Atlanta race with almost a perfect 60 points, just finishing just short of that with 59 points. Yeah. And they got another really solid 36-point race at Michigan. So I like the way that they're trending with this 550 package. I like the underlying speed they've had all season. They've had some bad luck, saving a bit of a usage here, looking to some other guys a little bit later on in the season. So I'm going to take the swing on Kurt Busch. Not having anything to race for anymore, except for a good result, except for a potential win at his home track. I like Kurt Busch this weekend as a bit of a wild card entry. So he's my number 5 entry.
I'm undecided on Kurt Busch. Okay. I'm going to need to decide really quickly here.
As per usual. I was about to say, you got 2 picks here, so this you better usually decide. How it goes,
isn't it? Where your 5th pick really throws you for a loop.
Every single time, without fail.
It's a repeat every single week. Yeah. All right, for my 5th selection, I'm going to go with the guy, I've got nothing to lose at this point. So, I'm going to go with the guy that has the best average finish in the last 7 races of anybody here. I'm going to take a swing on Brad Keselowski. This is a track, this is probably his best mile and a half. If you had to look at the numbers and try and look at past success, this is a track where he's always shown up. And the last 7 races here have been no different. He's got an average finish of 4.86, 1 victory, 4 top 5s, 121 laps led. He starts 8th, but this is the one track that this season on the 550 tracks that he actually kind of showed up to. And I know that was early in the season, so it's a little bit hard to try and really pinpoint a direct kind of comparison in terms of speed, but he finished second here in the spring. So that's pretty damn solid to the fastest car by far on the 550 tracks this season in Kyle Larson. So I think the 2 car brings some speed here.
Losing to Kyle Larson is not something to be disappointed.
You're the winner essentially, right? Like that's kind of what it comes down to.
That's all that matters.
But Brad Keselowski, this is a track, if I'm going to use him in the playoffs, because I don't think I'll be using him too much given his speed this season. This is the one where I'm going to use him, and maybe next weekend at Talladega as well. But for right now, Brad Keselowski makes a lot of sense for me to try and go for it, take the swing on him. He may not be used as much this weekend, depending on if you just look at the season results. But if you look at just Vegas specifically, you would think that Brad Keselowski is going to have a good weekend. And I certainly do. So let's go with the 2 car this weekend as my 5th selection. Number six, as per usual. Let's stall.
Where are we going for the final pick?
Let's stall, ladies and gentlemen. The Wacker stall. I should get it trademarked.
You should. We should make T-shirts.
We should. Next season, I think we do. I think we said that this year, but I think we
get the merch line going.
I think we need to get the merch line going, a Patreon page, everything. 6th pick, 6th selection. This is an interesting one.
Gonna go value, gonna go with a heavy hitter. What are we thinking here?
You know what? I had a different guy written down, but I'm not going to use this guy 5 times. Let's take a swing on Alex Bowman.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. This is a track where he's been kind of hit or miss. I'm going to say that they hit it this time. The nighttime is the right time for the 48 car this time around at Vegas. Showed up pretty well last season, got a top 5 finish here in this playoff race. Remember last season in 2020 in the spring race as well, was very, very close to securing that victory. Ran out of laps there with that caution flag. It all kind of wishy-washed all up in his face. So the spring result here, I think he finished I don't know if I have it up. I don't think I have it up. But I don't remember where he finished in the spring, but I'll say that he finished decent. Who knows?
Let me double check. Bowman in the spring wasn't great. 21 points. I can't remember where he finished, but last year in the playoff race, he was very good.
I'll say that Bowman has a bounce back. I initially had Denny Hamlin written down, but I already used 2 usages on the 11 car. So I'm like, I don't know. I think there's a couple of tracks that I would maybe look at for the 11 card going down the stretch rather than this one. I think I could maybe try and steal a Bowman kind of usage where I won't use all 5 for the playoffs, but this is the round last year where he was pretty damn solid. And then he got into that round of 8 and was damn solid again. So maybe the 48 card goes on a little bit of a run here once again in 2021. I'll use Alex Bowman usage as my 6th selection here at Vegas.
All righty. I really like that Bowman swing. I found an interesting trend the last 2 playoff races at Vegas. He'd been in the top 10, and then the spring races he hadn't been. So looking at that trend, it's a decent direction. But I'm not going to take the swing on Alex Bowman. I am going to take the swing, though, on Brad Keselowski.
Okay.
The results there have been very good for him. I like the speed from earlier in the season. And this 2 team, their focus this season has kind of surprisingly, especially when you look at how it went last year, has been with the 550 package. 4 straight top 10 results here with this package. Hasn't been at the high end stuff that you'd maybe expect from a Penske number 2 car. But looking over the entire season, it's been surprisingly consistent. They ranked 6th in terms of points accrued with this 550 package. One of their best races, if not their best race this season, if you exclude the kind of flukier win at Talladega.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the 2 team was at this very exact racetrack at Las Vegas. So obviously a bit different, just given day race versus night race, regular season early race where you try some stuff versus playoff race where everything's on the line. But looking at all the different factors, I think Brad Keselowski is a pretty reasonable swing given his past results here, given the form this season, and the fact that you're probably not going to be up against using 5 usages for him in these playoffs. Definitely.
I'm glad. I'm kind of surprised you went for him, but at the end of the day, I'm not surprised, if that makes any sense. Like, I didn't think that you would go with him, but I could definitely see it.
Who were you thinking I was going with?
I honestly don't know. I didn't have anybody in mind because you have some names up here when you look at average finish specifically that, you'd be like, yeah, you should take him. But 550 results this season would say otherwise. So it's kind of a wishy-washy kind of race here.
And I think the obvious one that we did leave on the board is Joey Logano.
Yep, absolutely. And you can argue Martin Truex Jr. as well. I mean, even Kevin Harvick. I mean, the spring result was very disappointing for the 4 car. But in 550 results as a whole has been disappointing for the 4 car. But this track is usually where they're good.
Yeah, so average points over the last 6 races here at Las Vegas. Number 1 is Joey Logano, not in either of our lineups. Number 2 is Martin Truex Jr., not in either of our lineups. And number 6 is Kevin Harvick, not in either of our lineups there. Yeah. So 3rd is Keselowski, 4th is Kyle Larson. He missed the second 2020 race, which is why it's by average points, not points accrued. And then Ryan Blainey there in 5th. So leaving some big heavy hitters on the board, looking to save them for other places, though, I have to assume.
Yes. And there's been some weaknesses for some of those guys on the 550 tracks, but let's look at the honorable mentions for this weekend. I do have Denny Hamlin making an appearance on this list. This is a track that is very similar to Texas in terms of he hasn't quite been able to figure it out. A little bit more so as of late here at Vegas than Texas, but still similar in terms of just not getting the results that they usually do at other places. But back-to-back top 5 finishes here at Vegas. So you would think that the 11 car maybe is starting to figure something out here at this track, but he's too valuable usage right now, at least, given how much he showed in that first round at speed. He was a race winning candidate in all 3 of those races, given the circumstances. So I think the 11 car is going to be an interesting one to watch because they're by no means safe, but they put themselves in a better position now, given that victory and those extra 5 playoff points. They're a little bit higher up in the standings. So let's see where the round goes for the 11 car. If he doesn't have a good result here, then you start to maybe a little bit worry if you're a Denny Hamlin fan. But for right now, he's in a pretty decent spot looking towards that round of 8. Joining him in the honorable mentions, I have his teammate Martin Truex Jr., just based off of the fact that if he does show up with a 550 package that is solid, he's going to be a really, really good contender. Still finished top 10 here in the spring, but nowhere near the speed that we saw from the 19 car usually here at this track. And I think back to, I've said it a couple of times, that Coca-Cola 600, that 19 car was nowhere on the 550 speed at a track. He's been, I would argue, even better at Charlotte than here at Vegas. So it's been kind of one of those races. That was also a nighttime race at Charlotte. So I don't know what to expect from the 19 car. I have a big question mark around them this weekend. Either they hit it or they're near the back half of the top 10, I would say. There's no real in between for me on the 19 this weekend.
Yep, just haven't been good enough on the 550 package to justify using him when you look at a road course coming up, when you look at some 750 tracks remaining on the schedule for Truex here. Only 2 races this season with more than 40 points on the 550 package. Homestead to start the year. And then the other one was the second Pocono race where because of fuel, he didn't even end up finishing inside the top 10. So this year has not been the typically dominant season that you would expect for Truex on the 550 package. 750 package is a completely different story, which is why maybe take the swing if maybe you save the usage or you didn't use him in that first round as much. But I'd definitely be looking at him at your Roval, at Martinsville, or even Phoenix for that championship finale, just given how good they were earlier this season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I do have Joey Logano here as an honorable mention, just because he finished top 10 here in the spring. And, for all of their faults on the 550 tracks this season, this is one of their better results. So if they're going to show up someplace on a mile and a half in these playoffs, there's only 3 of them, but if they're going to pick between the 3, this is the one that Joey Logano will show up on if he's going to. And that there's a lot of question marks around the 19 car and the 22 car this weekend. Either they show up or they kind of are in that last back of the top 10 range, I would say. But
like Logano's finished in the top 10 with this package 3 times this season and at 2 tracks, Vegas earlier on in the season, and then both Pocono races. That's it.
Yeah. It's been a really dismal season for the 22 car on the 550 tracks. And that's why we've really stayed away from him on those ones. And we've put an extra emphasis on using him at the 750 ones. So it makes a lot of sense.
Courses. Yeah.
Next up, we've got Christopher Bell on our honorable mentions here. Ran well in the spring race here, and that really kind of provoked me to do this. The 550 results have been very skittish for the 20 car this season, but when you look at the races that he has performed at, this was one of them at Las Vegas earlier this season, early on in their relationship as well with Adam Stevens. So you imagine that they've kind of picked up on some things that could do well and perform well here, because he's going to need to get off to a really good start in these playoffs if he hopes to advance to that round of 8. This is not the best round in terms of tracks for Christopher Bell. You could maybe look at the Roval and being like, wow, he's done well.
I like him at the Roval. Yeah.
When he's done well at the road courses this season, he's done top 5 speed really at the road courses, but we'll see what happens with the 20 car this weekend. But do you agree with him coming into this weekend as a Vegas? Is it somebody that you were looking at least for your lineup?
Not even remotely. I'll be completely honest. That's I need to see it before I believe it in the playoffs kind of thing. If I were looking anywhere for Bell in this round, I'd be looking at the Roval, just because he was very, very good at the Daytona road course, and there's similar characteristics and whatnot, and has been good kind of in road courses in general. But he'd be like early teens in terms of candidates that I'd really be looking at, if I'm being honest. So very much not on my radar.
Last but not least for honorable mentions, it's a guy that you have in our lineup, in your lineup. It's a guy that we have the difference between our lineups is Kurt Busch. I was kind of in between on Kurt Busch, whether to put him as a stay away from or an honorable mention, because he's just been so bad at Vegas sometimes that you're like, well, what's the point in even using him? But given his 550 speed, like you pointed out earlier, you would think that the 1 car should be at least the leading or one of the leading non-playoff guys now going for a decent finish this weekend.
And part of it is like the early career stuff doesn't factor in whatsoever, because car package, everything is so completely different. All of it. So I can push all that kind of stuff to the side and just kind of focus in on the speed, because that is at the end of the day the thing that really ends up mattering. It's the speed and the package versus the driver and his talents. And while Kurt maybe be a little bit step behind at Vegas, the speed that they've shown and kind of the situation they're in makes him a pretty solid wildcard bet, at least for myself here.
Yep, I do like the 1 car. Just these playoffs, they usually tend to favor the playoff guy. So I'm just a little bit more hesitant on that, but the 1 car could definitely show up with some good speed here this weekend. I believe he starts 20th. So going to have to come up to the pack just a little bit, but I wouldn't put that past him to get some good stage points, maybe for that second stage, maybe even the back half of the top 10 for the first stage, if they unload well, and then we'll see what happens from there. Only 2 stay away froms for me this weekend. It's Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick. This is Chase Elliott's worst mile and a half. He's had terrible luck here, has led quite a few laps. It's not like he hasn't run well. It's just the fact that he hasn't finished well. And that's evidenced by a 20.56 average finish over the last 7 races here. It's abysmal for the 9 car. I don't know what it is. It's just, he's been snake bitten here and he has not gotten lucky in Vegas. So I'm sure he hasn't visited the gambling tables too much yet, given his results out there, but maybe the tides turn for the 9 car this weekend, looking for redemption. Of course, I have the 2 guys in the stay away froms that got together and were the most controversial last weekend.
Just so happened to put them together.
Just so happens, so convenient. But for Kevin Harvick, this has just been their MO this season. 550 tracks have not been nowhere. It's been nowhere. The speed's been absolutely nowhere.
I wouldn't say
compared to last year, at least.
I wouldn't say nowhere because they've been fairly consistent in terms of being a top 10-ish threat. The last couple of races, that's definitely fallen off at Michigan and Atlanta, which definitely gives you some pause when you think about how good Harvick's been at Michigan, for example. But the middle part of the season, they had what? Let's see here. They had a stretch of 5 straight top 10, some pretty solid points in the 35 to 40 point range. I just, similar to you, need to see it before I believe it here in these playoffs. But I'd have him more as maybe a candidate because looking at the rest of these playoffs, there isn't a ton of places that I'd really consider using him. So I'm not super concerned about using up all of those Harvick usages, but he's somebody I thought about as maybe a long shot contender, but at the end of the day, just isn't a worthwhile gamble for myself.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll use 5 usages on Kevin Harvick, to be honest, because
I think right now I'm looking at Oh, no, I think I will end up using 5.
When I look at the 1.5 mile track that sticks out to me where I feel confident in the 4 car, if it's going to happen, it's going to be Texas. That's where I feel like if I'm going to put a 4 car usage on a 550 track, that's one where I feel really confident with. Vegas has been 2 victories. It's not been too bad over the course of his career, but that's come on pretty recently since his SHR days. And specifically the last 3-4 years, the 4 car has been looking pretty solid here, but it's not his best mile and a half. It's a good one. I mean, Kevin Harvick doesn't have too many weaknesses as a race car driver, but when I look at some other ones, I think this is maybe a 3rd or 4th best for Kevin Harvick in terms of career results and recent results as well. So you could definitely put him in there. Yeah.
So for myself, I used 3 Harvick usages in the first 3 races of the playoffs. So I've got the 2 left here. I'm expecting 750 speed, baby. Worked out well for me. But I've got 2 more places that I'm expecting to use him, and I probably see myself using all 5, to be honest.
Okay. How many usages do I have left on Harvick? I have 4 usages.
Really? Okay.
I think I garaged him. I think I I didn't use him last weekend at Bristol because that's how it paid. I wanted to use him last week. I should have 3, but I didn't have him in my lineup because I'm an idiot. But yeah, that'll do it for the honorable mentions and the stay away froms. Very similar lineups as per usual. Bonus picks is where it's going to get decided here this weekend at Vegas.
Yes.
Very interested to see where we head for this one. I think it's going to be very similar for a lot of it. It could come down to the race winner pick. Let's be honest, but
I don't know. We've got 1 driver difference. So yeah, it's probably coming down. Yeah.
So top Chevrolet finisher this weekend. I believe you lead us off with that. So who you got?
I kick things off and it's Kyle Larson. There's nothing really too much to say. There's some other Chevys that I think will be in the hunt for the win. But Kyle Larson, it's 5 points. It's not worth gambling on somebody else, to be honest.
Yep. 5 points secured for Kyle Larson there. Top Ford. I don't like going first for this one this weekend because I feel like you could go somewhere else and you'd feel pretty confident. I'm going to go with Ryan Blainey here.
Okay.
I just think the 12 car has just been too consistent for me to deny him across 550 tracks and at this track in general. Definitely Brad Keselowski could get up there and do it. Maybe even Kevin Harvick or Joey Logano. I'm not counting them out, but I'm going to go with the odds on favor for Ryan Blainey here.
I'm going to take the swing on Brad Keselowski for this one. I think it's very close. You got
nothing to lose, so why not?
It's very close between the 2 of them. My thought between going into it was having the second pick here was I preferred Blainey, but I was going to take the opposite of the one that you took. Keselowski was just too good here earlier in the season to kind of shy away from. And they need a very, very strong result here in this first race of this round if they're going to have any shot of making it through. So I've got Brad Keselowski as my top Ford. Into Toyota, Kyle Busch. Simply put, they've been very, very good on the 550 package and significantly better than kind of the rest of their teammates with Toyota, with the exception being Denny Hamlin. That said, he's been faster on the 550 package, more consistent on the 550 package. I'm taking the swing on Kyle Busch for top Toyota.
It's going to get rowdy in Vegas. I'm going to take him as well as the top Toyota. Home field advantage in his backyard, basically. But
I don't know if that's true.
No, I feel good about the 18 car this weekend, given how good they've been on 550 tracks. I thought he was going to be good in the first round as well, but some things don't always line up or go as way you expect. Story of the season for fantasy there. Winning manufacturer here this weekend. It's impossible to not take Chevrolet here, given Kyle Larson's prowess. So going to go with Chevrolet. This is the mistake I made in the spring. I went Ford and Team Penske, and it bit me in the butt. But when I see the 550 speed, and if it's not Kyle Larson in victory lane at the end of this weekend, I'm going to say William Byron could absolutely do it if he shows up with a decent enough car. He could maybe surprise and get a second victory of the season, but Kyle Larson is just basically manhandling an entire section of points here for fantasy that you can't deny. So Chevrolet for me.
Yep. Chevy Hendrick combo for myself as well. And it's not just Kyle Larson as well. When I look outside of that, I like William Byron's chances. In a long shot scenario, I can see Chase Elliott potentially getting up there. I can see Alex Bowman being up there as well. So I have faith in all four of those Hendrick cars. I also have faith in Kurt Busch and potentially being a candidate here with maybe a different strategy or trying something else in the situation that they find themselves in with the combination of speed that they have with this package. So Chevy for myself, easy pick there. And then Hendrick, just too much value to kind of overlook here.
Yep. Same for me. I'm going to go with Hendrick as well. Okay. I could honestly go with something different just to try and maybe make up some points on you here, but there's no point really. I'm just trying to go for my best overall lineup that I can. So yeah, I'll go with Hendrick here. Truck Series winner pick this weekend. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to take John Hunter Nemechek to go back-to-back here at Vegas, beat Kyle Busch here in the spring. And that's all the things I need in order to say that he's going to win here again this weekend. He was kind of denied at Bristol by his own doing, if you want to argue it that way. He could have won that pretty easily if he didn't slide up out of turn 4 to let Chandler Smith take the victory. But all is fair in love and war, I guess. So I'm going to say that John Hunter Nemechek gets some redemption here.
Teammates.
Yep. And I say he punches his ticket to at least the penultimate round here of the playoffs for himself. So the 4 car goes back-to-back at Vegas. 4 truck goes back-to-back at Vegas.
Okay. So you're taking the number 1 guy, then I'll take the number 2 guy in Sheldon Creed. It's been a head-to-head battle so far in these playoffs. Round of 8 here. So booking your tickets to the championship 4 with these next 3 races.
Oh my gosh. That's nuts. I didn't even think about that. I forgot the trucks don't have any races.
Yep. Oh my God. So I'll just take the opposite here and I'll take Sheldon Creek. Because honestly, the way that this playoffs has gone, it really does feel like it's going to be one of these 2 the rest of the way, unless there's a weird scenario like it was for Chandler Smith.
Yeah. Damn. This is a big weekend, man. Holy smokes. I totally didn't even realize that. Okay. Xfinity Series, the playoff opener for them. Who you got?
So AJ Almendinger won here earlier this year. I'm not going to go with the double though for AJ. I'm going to say Austin Cindric starts out the playoffs with a victory here. Need to get some of that momentum back after losing out on the regular season championship. I think they're going to be really, really gunning for things after kind of the way that regular season ended with some bad luck those last few weeks. And so I'll take the swing on Austin Cindric here to start out the playoffs with a bang.
We've got an owner's championship that we're going for in the Xfinity Series here. I'm going to say the 54 car goes to victory lane this weekend. Okay. Ty Gibbs upsets the playoff field. He's done it so far this season on numerous occasions. I think he does it again to open up the playoffs. The 54 car has always been good around Vegas. They always bring a good piece to Vegas to JGR. Cindric's not fantastic here at Vegas, so I'm a little bit surprised at that decision given the speed that they had in the spring race, but he definitely could go out there and win it. I'm not saying that he can't, but I think that we could see somebody just kind of upset everybody, and no playoff guy gets the opportunity to punch their ticket to the next round of their playoffs and go to Talladega very much scared. So Ty Gibbs wins the Xfinity race at Vegas. Cup Series winner pick. You know, why
are you stumbling on this one? Come on now.
I'm going to leave you because
are you serious?
I have nothing to lose this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I've lost the head to head. I'm going to lose the overall. If I'm going to go down swinging, I'm going to go down swinging with Kyle Busch. I'm going.
So just to be clear, before you can get into your Kyle Busch soliloquy or whatever,
that's about it.
You took Chevrolet.
Yep.
You took Hendrick.
Yep.
And then you're leaving me Kyle Larson.
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to check. Go ahead. And
I've got nothing to lose, man. Like if I was in a position where I felt like I could come back and do this,
pride on the line.
I would take a lot of pride if Kyle Busch comes out of here a victor at Vegas. Thank you very much. I'm going off of the numbers, and he's due for a victory here. It's been 2009.
See what you should do is you should do the emotional hedge where you take Kyle Larson, and then if Kyle Busch wins, it's great because you're happy anyways. And then if Kyle Larson wins and Busch doesn't, then you're happy because Larson wins and you get the fantasy win. That's what you should have done. That's what you should have done. But
no.
Before you can reverse your decision, I will gladly take Kyle Larson as the Cup Series winner.
Don't worry. I wasn't going to switch it.
Okay,
because
I don't know. You've done it in the past. So
I haven't done the race winner switch. Okay. Making picks is a little different. I've been backed into a corner sometimes. This time I had all the free pickings. It's not like it's a bad pick, but it's obviously not the pick.
A bad pick. He probably would have been my number 3 pick.
Who would you have picked? I'm just curious if I had picked Kyle Larson. I was always wondering who you were going to pick there for that one.
I would have taken the swing on William Byron.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Hendrick Speed 550, baby.
Yeah. I can't deny that this season. But yeah, I'll go with my guy. If he's going to make it to the round of 8, he needs a good run here at Vegas. I'm praying to God that it happens, because he's my champion. So if he doesn't do well this weekend, we're in trouble going to Talladega and the Roval.
I mean, you were almost in trouble in that first round.
Yeah, and I thought they were good there. So maybe it's a bit of a role reversal. They come out in the round that they shouldn't be good at, and they come out here and win, and don't have to worry for the next 2 weeks, which would be absolutely nice on my expected lifespan, as well as, everything else in my life. But
I feel like going out early in the playoffs might help the stress levels later on.
No, because then depression hits in, and then that's not what you want. You'd rather be at least prolonging it to an certain extent. But you didn't get a preamble for Larson. I know that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay.
Yeah. It's Kyle Larson. He won here earlier this year. He's dominant on the 550 package. I am wondering how different the race looks just because it is the cooler temperatures, more grip, stuff like that for these 550 high downforce package cars. We saw last year kind of things have a wrench thrown into them with Kurt Busch and the strategy call and all that kind of stuff. But I can easily see a few different guys, just given there's some decent cars that are now outside of the playoffs going for those different strategies, trying out some different things, going for that win, and maybe finding themselves in a similar scenario to that Kurt Busch was last year, if it isn't even Kurt Busch again. So lots of different stuff that can happen this weekend. Lots of stuff on the line as we enter the round of 12. And then, of course, the round of 8 for the Truck Series and the round of 12 as well for Xfinity. But a lot on the line this weekend if a lot of different scenarios break out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Vegas this weekend. It's a track that has definitely matured as the years have gone on here, and it's provided some pretty entertaining racing the past couple of times we've been there. So hopefully it's a good weekend for myself in terms of fantasy, but at the end of the day, it's all for fun and games. Congratulations once again to you for the overall and the head-to-head. But any final thoughts before we wrap up today's episode here, Kyle?
Yeah, just very interested. If we get kind of a standard Vegas race or something like that, I think it puts a lot more pressure on Talladega and Roval, which will make those races even more chaotic to a certain extent. But if Vegas does break crazy, it all of a sudden pushes some different drivers into some different kind of uncomfortable situations. So this middle round for a lot of different reasons, is the one that a lot of people have their eyes on as being the chaos round, for being the round where it is truly unpredictable and a lot of things can break certain ways. If anybody has a bad Vegas race, they're in deep, deep trouble, because you look at Talladega and you look at the Roval, and trying to get and trying to have good results there is extremely, extremely difficult to bet on if you have a bad Vegas race. So a big, big opening race of this round for a lot of different drivers that find themselves in not entirely comfortable situations in terms of the points. There's some big names that are right around that cut line or even below the cut line as well. So a lot of pressure is going to be on a lot of different drivers to start off these playoffs, or start off this round well here at Vegas.
Nobody is safe in this round. Yep. And, that even includes Kyle Larson to a certain extent. Yep. It's only plus 16.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, but we'll for Martin Truex Jr. in second spot, he's only plus 16 above the cutoff line. Like, that is really small amounts of stage points that can be gained periodically over the course of 3 races. That's 6 different stage points that you can try and accumulate during those 3 races. I mean, like, the strategy is going to be all over the map here. Stage points are going to be absolutely crucial in terms of trying to make it to that next round. At least we have 3 out of the 4 right in terms of our pre-playoff predictions.
I'm feeling decent about that, at least.
It's similar, but you do have Denny Hamlin out in this round as a bit of a shocker. I have Alex Bowman out in this round as kind of like that little bit of a bigger name that could go out in this round. But then the rest of them, we have kind of Brad Keselowski, who both had out in the first round, but he's still around. So we would imagine we'd look at him, then Christopher Bell and Kevin Harvick. Those were the ones that we have kind of lined up here for this round, but looking forward to it.
I'd definitely be worried about Joey Logano heading into this round as it currently stands. Not in a great point situation. Vegas doesn't shape up to be a good race for him, given the 550 speed this year. Talladega is a big wild card, and then they've been good on the Roval in the past. They've had good road course speed, but again, that's a tough race to bank on, especially if you're in a must-win situation, because Chase Elliott's in the field. So there's some big names that are definitely at risk in this round, and absolutely, I think we're going to see 1 or maybe even 2 big names go out in this round.
Yep. And honestly, you could see Martin Truex Jr. going out in this round as well. If they don't hit Vegas and they have a rough Talladega, then it comes down to the Roval, and they haven't been at their best on the road courses so far this season. So, I mean, I'm definitely scared as a Kyle Busch fan going into this round. It's definitely the most nerve-wracking round that there is. It probably could be out there. Yeah. But that's why the playoffs are here, to deliver these Game 7 moments that we've talked about frequently each round. And we'll see what happens once again after these 3 races. But we will have another fantasy preview coming to you for next weekend at Talladega. Maybe I will pull up the randomizer for that one because I've got nothing to lose, but who knows? But that'll do it for today's episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We'd really, really appreciate it. And all the links to our social channels will be in the description of the YouTube video, as well as go give NASCAR on TSN a follow. It's actually been growing pretty consistently given the clips and everything that's been going out there. So pretty happy about the growth that page is going as of late, and looking forward to the kind of final stretch here. 1 round down, 3 technically more to go for the Cup Series. Going to be a fun one. Make sure to go check out our F1 fantasy preview for the Russian Grand Prix as well. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. Like I said, we will talk to you next weekend to get you set up for Talladega. Oh boy, going to be a good one. Enjoy the racing at Las Vegas this weekend, everybody.